That was Doppelbelichtung by Carola Bauckholt. Carola was born in Krefeld, Germany in 1959, and after working at the Theater am Marienplatz Krefeld for several years, she studied composition at the Musikhochschule Köln with Mauricio Kagel. She founded the Türmchen Verlag music publisher along with Caspar Johannes Walter in 1995, and 6 years later, they founded the Türmchen Ensemble. She has received numerous residencies and prizes, such as the Ben Aloy Zimmermann Scholarship from the city of Cologne, a residency at the Villa Massimo in Rome in 1997. In 1998, she was designated the Artist of Year by the state of North Rhine-Westphalia, and she was selected to present Germany at the World Music Days in Mexico City in 1992, Copenhagen 1996, Seoul 1997, and in Zurich 2004. A central theme of Bauckholt's work is the examination of the phenomena of perception and understanding. Her compositions often blur the boundaries between visual arts, music theater, and concert music. She is especially fond of using noisy sounds, which are often produced by unconventional means, such as extended instrumental techniques or bringing everyday objects to the concert hall. It is important to note that these noises are not just part of some kind of predetermined compositional structure, but rather they are carefully studied and left free to unfold and develop at their own pace, lending the compositions their own unique rhythm. Carola Bauckholt, thank you very much for doing the interview. The first piece I heard from you was Doppelbelichtung in a class concert that we had. A friend of mine performed the piece, and Wolfgang Musil, our teacher who was responsible for electroacoustics, helped her to build the piece, which took 3 or 4 hours. And we just went into the saal, and there were these hanging violins. And I just instantly loved the idea of these hanging violins, and the fact that you tried with these acoustic instruments to get back to nature and just produce this sound, which is like being in the woods. So I'm really curious to know how you came up with the idea of the piece and how you developed it.
Yeah, so the piece Doppelbelichtung has a quite long story. I wrote a string quartet called Lichtung, that means glade. So in the forest where are no trees, this is a glade. Lichtung. And in this quartet, I already had bird calls and insects and so for string quartet. And it was performed by Cicada Quartet from Oslo, and Karin Hellqvist was the violinist, and she did the bird calls so incredible well. The articulation, because the articulation is always a bit open, of course. And then she came to me and asked for a solo piece because she would love to be a virtuosic bird. It was her wish, and I thought, a solo piece with bird calls, it may be a bit cheap or kitschy. I don't know if this word exists in English. And I thought, what can I do with this? But then I went into the work, so I choose which birds are very good to be played on the violin, and it was interesting that the very high register worked very well, because in the middle register or deep register you always listen the body of the violin, and the birds, they have somehow no body in their voice. It's incredible how they produce these sounds. You know that they have two voices, so they can sing zweistimmig with two voices at the same time. No, they really have two chords. Often hear incredible jumpings and so fast and in the trills what they are doing, and it's because they have two trocheen, so I don't know the words, but yeah, they have this they have two voices in there in the kehle, yeah.
Did you do research on these like specific birds or generally birds before you write the piece?
I heard incredible many motives, and I have to say, there are incredible good recordings. I didn't use recordings of my own. So the British Library, they have incredible collection of wonderful recordings of birds. So I felt a bit like a thief. Yes, I took recordings which already exist, and I took melodies from other composers, let's say. Okay, but then it was a big challenge to translate these enormous melodies into music. And I slowed down the recordings very much, 3 octaves lower, to be able to listen to the details, because it's really so fast and so much happens inside. And this was very interesting. In 3 octaves, it's a bit our register, the register of the human voice. And yeah, I did an experiment. I let her, the violinist, sing the melodies 3 octaves lower with the human voice, and then I speeded it up, and it sounds exactly like bird calls. Yeah, so it's only a question of tempo, which species we are. It seems like, yeah, the character of the human voice, 3 octaves lower in 3 times speed faster, really sounds like birds. Yeah, so it was wonderful work to go into this kind of melodies and rhythm. Karin, she helps me a lot because I gave her my transcriptions, and then she tried to play it because it's really hard to play, and she showed me what is better to play and how is it the fingering, and so it was kind of ping pong work with her, and she helps a lot.
It's funny that you mention it because I was so influenced by this composition generally that I actually wrote a piece. It's called Birdie, and because I have personally very high voice, and I just recorded a very small fragment, and then I just made it higher and higher and higher throughout the piece, and you realize actually that this is very similar, and it just like in the middle phase of transposing it to a higher frequency, it sounds a bit synthetic. But then if you go higher, which is kind of like ultrasonic, it sounds really like birds. And it was really exactly as you say, that you're just astounded that we kind of share the same color even, you know.
Yes, I want to hear that.
Of course, I can.
Please send me a link, yes.
Yes, I will.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting, and it's so great that we have the technical possibilities so easily with transposing in these extreme registers. Yeah.
This brings me up to the next question. How familiar are you with electronics in music? Do you consider yourself also an electroacoustic composer, or do you seek help when you have ideas?
Yeah, I have to say not at all. I was always very fascinated by electronics, and I wanted to join the electronic studios, but they never took me. And yeah, so this was the first piece where I had entrance to an electronic studio. It was SWR Experimental Studio here in Freiburg, the Heinrich Strobel. Yeah, I'm not at all familiar with electronics. But I'm using a lot of recordings in my pieces with samples, and mostly I take them how they are. And so I can do recordings and I can cut it, but that's all.
Well, actually, I looked through the partitur and score of Doppelbelichtung, and you have a precise idea of the room and how the speakers should be placed in the room. And how did you come up with that? Did you have any reasons for those specific placements of the violins in the room and the speakers in the room?
Yeah, so this was quite easy to transport the listening situation of outdoors. So it should be surrounded, and of course the violinist is in front, so it's necessary that the audience is under the hanging violins. And mostly they didn't recognize that it comes from the violin, because this is very interesting too, that this high register sounds, they have no location. So it's very hard to really listen, this comes from this location. It was an interesting experience, because I think it's not true. High register has a good location, but I had this experience. And the best performances were outdoors. We did it really in the wood. At first I thought it's doppelt gemoppelt, so it's doubled. You take sounds from outdoors, put them into the violin, and then you go back outdoors. And I thought it's too much, but it was so surrealistic to have this, to bring it back to nature and to be in the nature, and you have the birds there, you have all the sounds which are there anyway, and you have this artificial nature inside it. It was really very interesting experience. So this is my favorite version, to do it really outdoors. And in spring, we did it in autumn. So my aim is to do it in spring.
Well, it's again funny because I did the same with Birdie. I mean, this is so crazy that you tell me, because we were invited to play in a garden, and we placed 2 speakers in the trees. It was actually in summer. And when we were rehearsing the piece with the bird sounds, they were dogs like barking. So they really thought these are birds, and it was human voice or partly like these synthetic sound colors that I told you about. So yeah, well, actually, this connection with nature, is it something you often use in your pieces, or was it just for this piece?
So my inspiration often comes from sounds which I hear in my daily life. So not from the music, but from the environment. So this is kind of what I did all the time. And really to come very close to sounds from nature, it started with the sled dogs, with a piece for voices, Instinct. When I heard recordings from singing sled dogs in a chorus, and I was so fascinated from this color, and I wanted to research why it's so interesting. Sled dogs, so in the Arctic, Schlittenhunde, huskies. Yes, and they do sing in groups. And only when humans are not there, and there exists a recording, a CD with the whole CD of this singing, and I listened to the whole hour, and I really said, wow, how is it built? Because it has a clear structure and intervals and microtonality and a special timbre. So I was really very fascinated by this. And then, of course, I went a bit on and got this commission for the Reed Quintet, Halifax Reed Quintet, where I wrote the piece Zugvögel, Migratory Birds. And so, it's really it's a wonderful way to work, to take this material and then working closely together with a musician and do this composition, which is special because these are not my rhythm, not my melodies. I'm feeling more than as a filmmaker, because I'm doing I'm doing the surroundings and the staging of this, melodies, which are not for me. And at one time I decided to stop this and to do other things, to open new windows. Yeah, for example, my last ensemble piece, Implicit Knowledge for Musikfabrik. There I used samples too, but no animal voice, nothing. Yeah, I used mostly samples from instruments, pre-recording instruments and voice. Yeah, the human voice.
Another thing that I was curious about was that how you got into contemporary music. I mean,
yeah. It happens that I came to contemporary music. I learned piano as a child, but I have to say I was not very interested. I didn't know what I'm doing. So for me it was a bit bourgeois and not at all interesting. And I was interested in fine arts. For example, Dadaism and Futurism and all this. And then I heard that when I went to school, the class over me, they played a piece by John Cage, and they played on water bottles. And I thought, whoa, this might be interesting. And then I heard this name in a small theater, amateur theater in Krefeld, in my hometown. And I went there and they played Cage and Mauricio Kagel and Gerhard Rühm and Beckett and Jandl, and so avant-garde. And I was really delighted by this. I didn't understand anything. But so my nature is a curious one, and for this attracted me to understand what are they doing there, and so I went there, and then I helped them, and we did pieces together, and I performed Acoustica by Mauricio Kagel, for example, and Mauricio Kagel visited this theater. TAM, Theater Marienplatz, and he asked me if I'm studying music, and I was when he asked me, do you study music, I felt very well, because whoops, I never thought about this. And then I heard about his class in Cologne, a class for composers and musicians. And then I went there like a guest listener. And so it happens that I went in it. And of course, the class was open, and I would not have done an entrance examination. Never. So at that time, the spirit in avant-garde was very open to give space to people like Josef Beuys in Düsseldorf in the art department. Yeah, it was kind of lucky way.
So would you say that, like, I don't know how strict you are in terms of notation, because if there was like this open spirit of artists and just accepting them, not necessarily from a traditionally trained background, I'm just curious, like, do you write with classical notations, or do you have like sketches? How free are you in terms of conveying a concept to the musician?
Yes, so when I started, I worked very practically, trying out, working with the people, experimenting. And then I studied myself to notate, because I saw if I write something very precise, a different kind of world opens, that the people work on this. And then together with a colleague, we founded an ensemble, Türmchen Ensemble in Cologne. And with this musician, I worked very, very closely. And so I learned all this to be precise, let's say, by doing. Yeah.
Well, you teach at the Linz, of course, and you have been in committees for maybe competitions like the Orgel Wien Modern last year. And as a person who has an open mind about people's ideas and scores and how they demonstrate their style, how do you read a work? How do you see if there's something in it?
So I'm fighting for free space in the academy, because the fine art academies are so much open-minded, much more than the music academies. They have so many what you should have to do and how you should have to do it. And I'm fighting a lot to keep open space for spirit. And I have to say, in Linz it's possible. I'm very thankful for that we can open the doors. Let's hope it will last, because everything gets more and more strict in our times now, I have the feeling. I try to challenge the students to try something, not to follow a path which might be successful or whatever. Because it's really, the most interesting thing is what could be your own way, ideas which are new for me too. So I really would love to be surprised.
That's actually one of the reasons I was so astounded by your piece, because, well, we go to a lot of contemporary music concerts, and like more or less you hear the same colors and like trends, and it's not that common that you encounter something really different. And this individuality that you encourage, is it something that you're seeing the results also in your students, for example?
Yeah, it needs a lot of Encouragement, yes. To do something which you don't know what happens. Yeah. Whoops. I try to, support taking risk. And of course, it's not easy. It's much easier when you go a path which is already done. And really, you ask so much yourself what I'm doing, what you don't know what you want to do, and you don't know what is inside you. And I have to say that mostly it's a bit spoiled from the influence from outside. Like, kids, they play. They don't ask, what shall I play? They see something and they play. And through playing and doing, they develop their character. And to come to that point that you don't ask what is quality, how should it be at the end, how will the people think about this, or this is not creative. It's something which disturbs. So the best is to have an atmosphere which is playful, kind of, that you do. The thing is, how is it possible to come in a flow? It's a question I ask myself with every piece and every day. It's the same question, yes.
Well, it's good to hear that it's okay to be confused and not know what you're doing, because I often feel like that, yeah.
Yes, of course. I would say if you are not confused, it's not a good sign. Yeah.
Well, back to your work. I was also a bit curious about the titles you choose, because I heard this album from you on Spotify, Wir müssen reden, in English, We Need to Talk. And I just love the first track. So I was wondering, how do you choose titles for your pieces?
Yeah, it's mostly at the end, and it's hard work. And for example, this title, We Have to Talk, I had it in for this piece, and afterwards I felt very bad with the title, and I changed it. Kyle, I don't know the English word. And then the ensemble, because they knew about the first title and they liked it, they put that title on the CD, and I thought, no, because it's a bit embarrassing, this title, We Have to Talk. I feel it's too personal, and so, okay, titles is it's not an easy thing, because piece change with the title. It's like a name for a kid. If you have a name, it gives a bit a face to the piece. So titles are so important, and mostly I try to say something which is in it to make it kind of clear. For some people, my titles are too clear, but okay, yeah. It's always not an easy thing to find good titles, yes.
Do you have a favorite title in your works? A piece you like the title very much?
So many pieces. No. And better like this, because I have to find new ones. So I really try not to think about a lot, not to think about quality.
Do you come also from fine arts a little bit? Like, your interest is
Yes,
also in fine
yes.
arts. Do you have any favorite artists that you could mention, which inspire you there, or in any other medium, any other artistic or even musical medium, composers?
Yeah, so at the moment, I'm working together with the animation filmer, Elisabeth Hobbs, and I love what she's doing. It's incredible. And I'm really inspired by seeing her paintings and her colors. And when I see it, it's easy for me to write music. So I get input from artists, yes, fine artists. And there are many, yeah. I just was in an exhibition in Basel, Olafur Eliasson, where he put water in the Fondation Bayer. So empty rooms and all filled with water, green water. Yeah, so I think they think in a bigger context than composers normally do. And I wish to have this distance, how they think. Yeah.
Do you have any favorite composers that think like that, or you just like the result of their work?
Yeah, I have many favorite composers, and mostly they are quite, the art is quite new. So I really love what is coming up now to see new things, and I go in concerts as most as I can. It's hard to drop names.
To pin one. Okay, I understand. And well, I usually ask this from all fellow composers. I mean, because this is probably interesting for many young composers who are beginning. Well, you pointed out individuality in works, but how do you think one can like survive this not competition, but just this will of the society to just go through a safe way? I mean, can you really survive as an individual in the field? Do you have any tips on how to like stay personal but also be able to have a bit of success, which you have, of course?
So I think the key is activity. Don't be shy and be active and show the people what you are doing and ask the people, I want to do that, I have this. And so because very many people are just waiting to be found, and the life doesn't work like this. So to help yourself, it's a good way. I never expected to be a composer, I have to say. But we did. We founded a publishing house to have the scores in the library, because I experienced it was so hard for me to find scores for the theater. So in the earlier time, it was really hard to find scores. Now it's much better with the internet. And to found an ensemble, it's really good. Like Schallfeld, it was all Klangform, done in cooperation with composers, and so not waiting for help, but help yourself, and be active in applications. And so it's a lot. You have to be kind of manager or help yourself, but then you can work. And if you're waiting for, it's hard to work. And I think so the individuality today, it's even more necessary. I think the society needs the individual voices. Because, yeah, through the media, you get all the stuff which is kind of uniform and conform. And then you find an individual person and you say, wow, I didn't expect it. Or sometimes we think it's not possible to be individual. But then a person is coming and just like it is, he or she, like she is, and you think, whoa, it's possible. And so, yeah, don't be afraid, I would say. But of course, it's very hard, and in this pandemic, we felt, all people felt, that culture is not necessary for the society. And now there is coming a bit of money in Germany, in Austria. They're trying to put something into the culture because, yeah, it is necessary. For me, at least, it's really necessary to survive, to come in contact with art. Yeah. Yeah, not for everybody. It's funny. Some people need art, and some people don't. And I don't know why.
It's interesting. I knew a girl I used to go to some sport complex with. And once I was just talking to her and she said, yeah, I don't like listening to music. And I was so astounded. I mean, not even pop music or anything. She was like, no, I don't really like it. And it was such a weird thing. I mean, who doesn't listen to music? And so certainly there are people who don't miss it at all. And
yeah, but this person is interesting for me.
It is interesting. It's really weird.
Yeah, because she has something which she prefers. And so...
silence.
Yeah. So maybe she become a composer. Not having music. Yes.
Yeah. Carola, thank you very much for doing the interview.